They told me never to say its name, and for years I obeyed. The warning came from every corner, from my grandmother's hushed, fearful whispers to my mother's frantic, tear-filled eyes. Never say its name, they insisted, as if the very utterance of it would summon something terrible. I grew up in a house surrounded by shadows, where the air always felt a few degrees too cold, even on the hottest days. At night, strange noises echoed through the walls. Whispers that sounded like my own voice, but somehow wrong. Despite the warnings, I grew curious, desperate to understand what haunted our family, and what it was that had claimed my father when I was just a baby. One evening, as the full moon bathed the house in an eerie silver glow, I found myself standing in the attic, a room I had been forbidden to enter. There, hidden in an old chest, I discovered a dusty, leather-bound book, its pages filled with strange symbols and ancient words I could barely understand. But one word stood out, its name. It felt like a magnetic pull, irresistible. I whispered it, just to see what would happen. The moment the name escaped my lips, the temperature dropped, and the shadows in the corners of the room seemed to move. A cold gust of wind slammed the attic door shut behind me, and for a moment, everything went silent. Then, slowly, I began to hear a voice, soft and insistent, whispering my name. At first it was distant, barely audible, but soon it grew louder, closer, as if whatever was on the other side of the door was inching closer with every passing second. Panic surged through me, but my body refused to move. I was paralyzed, caught in the grip of something ancient and hungry. The shadows crept along the walls, forming shapes that twisted and writhed like living things, and from them, a figure began to materialize. Its face was hidden in the darkness, but its presence was undeniable, its aura suffocating. The entity had been waiting for me to speak its name. I could feel it, its anger, its hunger, the centuries of torment it had endured as it had been banished to the darkness, never to be spoken of again. But now, it was free, and it wanted something in return. The lights flickered, and I heard the sound of footsteps behind me. My breath caught in my throat. The shadows weren't the only things that had been watching. The entity wasn't alone. Something or someone else had come through the breach. I felt my body tremble as the pressure in the room grew heavier, like the air itself was suffocating me. The whispers grew louder, more frantic, until they were no longer whispers but guttural growls echoing in the space around me. With every passing second, I realized I had made a grave mistake, one that could never be undone. The name was never meant to be spoken. It was a binding, a barrier, a seal that kept something terrifying at bay, and now, I had shattered it. Before I could react, the door to the attic flew open, and in the doorway stood the figure from the shadows, its face now visible, twisted and inhuman. Its eyes burned with an unnatural hunger, and I could feel the weight of its gaze piercing through me. It stepped forward, and with each movement, the room seemed to shrink, as if the very walls were closing in. "You've released me," it hissed, its voice like 1,000 nails scratching against metal. "And now, you will pay the price." In that moment I realized what I had unleashed. It was not just an entity, it was a curse, an ancient being bound by a forgotten language and sealed away by a terrified people. And I had set it free. The world around me began to distort, the air thick with the smell of decay and the oppressive weight of fear. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. All I could do was watch as the shadows around me thickened, swirling in the corners of the room like a storm. The entity stepped closer, its hand reaching out toward me, its fingers long and claw-like. In the distance I could hear the sound of my grandmother's voice, faint but insistent. Never say its name. But it was too late. The darkness had already claimed me.